Welcome back to Section 2. I hope your week is going well. We've made it through week 1, and that's always the most busy, crazy one. So we've got a few things we're learning this week. We're going to continue watching some Lightroom tutorials. We're going to get into actually how to edit our pictures, import and export, and so on. This is also a good time if you have skipped the video at the first of the module about using the cloud sync with Lightroom Classic. This would be a good time to go watch that full video. So there's obviously a lot of the videos we watch are talking about digital cameras, standalone digital cameras. But a lot of us in this class are using iPhones or Android phones. And so I do try to have at least a video or two that work with or talk about those specific devices. In this case, we have an iPhone control, so there's a way to kind of quote unquote hack into your phone and create some editing and pseudo aperture based editing in your phone. Some of the Android phones have a pro mode, whether that's an app you download or your button switch you toggle to, and that allows you to mess with the settings. On top of that, we also have Lightroom app for our phones, and if you photograph in the camera in the Lightroom app, that gives you more latitude for some of your photo controls. That said, I don't believe that has an aperture control because most camera phones only have one aperture. So in the Lightroom controls video, you'll see that, or it's a web page, you'll see using the portrait mode, which simulates a shallow depth of field, or using it in editing, and you can switch some of the quote unquote f-stops there. And what it's doing is it's running an AI type generated program to mimic the aperture in the physical camera, or equivalent to the physical camera. So be aware, some of that is a little different. In the assignment this week, we are going to be using depth of field. Of course, if you are using a cell phone, you're going to look into more camera focus and in-camera portrait modes. And there's a video in the assignment itself to go to and watch for that. So just watch that as well. And it'll talk about like selective focus, portrait mode, and so on. Now, this is going to be the first assignment where you're turning in individual files as well as turning in your proof sheets or concept sheets and contact sheets. So I'm going to just open up Lightroom really quick here. So when we made our proof sheet, just uploaded 1,000 photos from my camera roll. When we made our proof sheet, we did that under print, and we made the 5x5 grid. And that's great for turning in for me to see an overview of everything you shot for the assignment. And I do still want these. I still want proof sheets turned in. But for the best photos, the 2 images that you have to turn in for the assignment, your maximum depth of field and your shallow depth of field, I don't want them just tiny on a page. You could, I guess, maybe do 2 rows, 1 column, but then they might be turned funny. The best would be to put them each on an individual page. And then when you print a file, it'll print 1 of 2. Alternatively, you can use export. So you go back to library where you brought images in at, you click on this image and you can click export, and then that will allow you to save to a specific folder put them on your desktop to find them easily, so on. You can put them in a folder. You can give them a custom name, so they can be depth of field max and depth of field min. So I know exactly what you're trying to do with each photo. That's always nice, giving your teacher a bit of a heads up of what I'm trying to look at. Of course, you can also just reference them in your concept sheet. That's also a valid option. If you have both selected, of course, it's going to do this as depth of field max 1 and 2. This is the same picture, one's just in black and white version. But if I clicked export, it'll say, okay, you're exporting it to your desktop as this. This file name already exists. Do I want to overwrite it, skip it, use a unique name? That's just going to add a tag to it. So then if I shrink these down, they're now there as depth of field -2 and 3 because I'd already used that for another example. I have to find where the web page went. But again, I could just click one of them and do that as max and then click my next best one. Let's see, lesson. This could be my depth of field max because everything's in focus from the big knee to all the way to the window outside. It's the beauty of a fisheye lens. Everything's always in focus. And you could print this out. This is, of course, not my photo, and this is just an example of a point of view image that I have for later. But again, export or print on a 1x1 grid, so it's a full page. Either is fine. And then when you're ready to turn in that assignment, you would just do in this case, new attempt, because this is the one I did the screenshots off of. Choose the files. Since they're on the desktop, they're easy to find. 1, add a file, choose file. 2. Of course, you would technically be adding a file and choosing your concept or contact sheets that you've exported. Those should also be included. So you'd have 2 contact sheets, and then you'd have your concept sheet. So you want to make sure you have all of those. So as beginning photographers, you can't expect yourself to take a fabulous photo in one shot. So in that 50 photo you should take for each assignment is really just an approximate, like it's close to about 50 photos. That's based on my beginning photography professor when I was in my first photo class saying, you're lucky if you get 1 good shot per roll of film. And our rolls of film back in those days were 36 images. So we're basing it on approximately 25, since they fit nicely on a page, images to get 1 really good image. Now, when you're turning in images for the depth of field assignment, you want 2 different scenes. So the images should not be of the same object taken in both maximum and minimum or with different uses of modes in your cameras or focus. You can take every picture in both ways, but the 2 best should be the best image showing shallow and the best image showing maximum. That is rarely the case that the same image is the best for both. So there is a place to turn in that option. That's the extra credit, where it's the same scene or composition in both minimum and max depth of field. This is 4 extra points, up to 5 extra points for a good example of an image showing the difference in both the selective focus and portrait mode versus standard mode, or in minimum or maximum depth of field using a variety of aperture sizes. For the main assignment, it should be separate compositions. And then this week, our week photographer is between 1890 and 1890 and 1910. So again, make sure that our artist is working within that time period. So the images that you are referencing should have been shot during those years. Um, Obviously, some artists have decade-long careers, some have almost century-long careers, so they do have changing bodies of work during different time periods. And the 1890s and 1910s are a really interesting shifting time in the history of art and photography, because it's going from it's the media really trying to find its footing, on what it can do. So it's really interesting photography and photographers during that turn of the century. All right, I look forward to seeing your photos and your videos, or your photos and your write-ups this week, and I'll catch you next week. Bye.